So let's talk about prompt engineering. And again, this is basically the things. So the way I like to think about it is I usually start from the end. So I strongly recommend you think about what you want. So if you want a professionally written email to whoever, think about that first, and then you go backwards. And it's like, okay, what would I type in so that this tool will give me a professionally written email? And then that's kind of a little bit advanced to start with, but just whatever you want. If you want a poem about kittens, like, just always start from the end and then go backwards. It ends up being a lot easier. So another huge thing at least at the beginner stages is think about what you're asking and think about if it's a task level. By task, I mean an actionable thing. Above task would be project, which would be a collection of tasks. Above project would be an application, which I don't think we're going to talk about today. But just think about what you're asking and think about if it's a project or a task. If it's not a task, deconstruct it and have component tasks. So, for example, if you say, I create a marketing campaign for widget X, if you think about that, and maybe that's your job and you do that all day, that's a lot of things. You have to identify who you're talking to, identify your message, identify the platform, identify blah, blah, blah. Like that could be easily 10, maybe 20 or 30 different tasks. So if you start with that level and you think about it, and it's like, oh, this is actually a project. Let me break this down and deconstruct it first. ChatGPT, the way that I believe you're using it, is much better at tasks than projects. It can do projects, but projects you have to prompt it a certain way, and I'm guessing that you're not because it's unless you're doing pages of prompts, you're probably not, and most people aren't. It's not an insult. Next thing is be clear and specific. And this is one of those you kind of have to go back and forth. But if you started with, I want, again, the perfectly written email for whoever, and then you get something and it's not professional at all, and it's full of emojis and it's hilarious and it's all these other things, you go back to the prompt and it's just like, oh, I wasn't clear. I just said write an email. I didn't say professional. That's not clear. I didn't say I wanted an email. I just said write something and it gave me a report. That's not specific. So if you don't get what you want, always go back to the prompt and it's like, did I deconstruct it? Is it clear and specific? Context is a huge one. The tools, and it doesn't have to just be ChatGPT. There are a ton of them. Google has Gemini, Microsoft has Copilot. Again, we can talk about other tools. There's literally thousands at this point. All of them are the digital version of just a blank page or a lump of clay, or if you do video game stuff, just like an empty virtual environment. Like it can be anything. And one of the problems that I think that I know we have as humans is that we have a lot of context that we can just glean from even just from being here. It's just like, for example, I assume that all of you speak English. I assume that all of you can use a computer. I assume that all of you work for ILA. I have a bunch of assumptions just because you're all here. This tool doesn't know any of that. So it's like it can figure some stuff out. If I start typing in English, it'll assume that I'm speaking in English, that I want a response in English, but maybe I want something in Spanish. So it's just like you always have to provide enough context so that it can give you whatever output that you want. Again, we can come back to all of these. Ambiguity is a huge one. The computers are very good with numbers. They're very good with logic. They're very good with structured data. Human language is none of those things. And there are so many ambiguities in human spoken languages that we don't even think about it most of the time. If again, the tools they're programmed really well to simulate understanding human language. That doesn't mean they actually understand it. So a lot of times if you get output and it doesn't make any sense, go back to the prompt and go word by word. It's like, how could this be ambiguous? How could this be taken a different way? If this is pretty much universal, definitely ChatGPT, definitely the major tools. If they don't know what you want, they guess. So if your prompt is has 100 different ways that it could be taken, it's going to guess. And the more ways that it could be taken, the more likely it is that it's going to be wrong. So always go back and just see how could this be ambiguous. For example, I'm from New York and I say sneakers. I've met lots of people who say tennis shoes. There's not right or wrong, it's just human language. If you put tennis shoes in here because that's what you call those things you put on your feet, ChatGPT might understand that you mean sneakers or might think that you're going to play tennis. That might not be relevant. So, like things like that, that again, we don't think about because it's just this is where I'm from, this is how I talk, this is whatever. It doesn't matter for the tool. So, if it could be ambiguous, go back to it and think about it. This one takes a lot of just trial and error, but it almost seems like it's counter to providing context, but you have to provide enough context so that it can give you what you want, and that's it. As soon as you start giving it more information, it's going to start making different connections that may or may not make sense, and then it starts taking you off course. Again, I don't really have a here's exactly what you do. This is really just an awareness thing where it's just be aware that you have to tell it enough, but not too much. And that's going to be honestly, it's prompt specific. But if you don't get what you want, it's like, oh, I put into it doesn't need to know about whatever thing. And please expect to iterate. And iterating just means you're going to do it. You're not just going to go in once. And it's not email or it's not a search engine where it's just like I could bring up email now. If this was an email presentation, I could say, okay, put this thing in to, put this thing in from, put this subject, type what you want, press send. That's kind of email. Like there's a little bit more, but that's kind of it. And if it was a search engine, go to Google or whatever search engine you use, type in the thing, press enter, and you're kind of done. This isn't that. So it's like, however you think something might work or how it's supposed to work, it's not going to work that way. And you're going to have to try it more than once. It's going to be frustrating at some point because we all have our limit. But if you go with the expectation that like, this isn't going to work, let me try it again. Let me try it again. Let me try it again. You'll get closer and closer. Like I know how to use these tools really well, and it's only because I've done this. I don't know how many times, but probably in the millions at this point. Because it's just like I do something and do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Okay, there it is. So one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people like to use these tools is to save time. If you use some of that time to craft better prompts, then it compounds. So it's like next time you can save double the time. So just I can talk about that forever, but just expect to iterate. And something that I don't know, I don't know where I first saw this, so I can't really give them credit, excuse me. But I like to call it the 10-80-10 principle. And that basically means that up front, you're going to do 10%. You have to figure out what you want, deconstruct it, craft the prompt. That's about 10% of the effort. You feed it into the tool. Again, in this case, ChatGPT is going to do 80% of the work. And then whatever you get on the tail end, expect to have to review that. You're going to review it, you're going to edit it, you're going to change it, you're going to put it in your own voice, you're going to put it in your association's voice, whatever it is. But don't expect that you're going to give something to the tool and then you're going to use it and you're done. That's even if you can prompt it really well, someone else might be able to prompt it really well, and then you're going to have the same output. So there's always at least a 10% on the tail end of making this your own, etc. There's more that could go into level one, but that's kind of like if you just do those things, that's honestly more than a lot of people because every people just kind of go and they expect that it's like email and they just do one thing and then it works perfectly and then it's done. This list, just that list helps you level up.